Peace, family. How you doing? Welcome back to another episode of Vocal Dialect Podcast. I am Knowledge Born 7. I'm here with my brothers, Brother Kenwato Moore, Brother Gerald Moore, as Kenwato Ikea, Brother Gerald Moore. Also, the brother Shaka Sen Kofu will be joining us in a second. We have a very special guest tonight, Minister Brother Charles Sullivan. Introduce yourself, brother. Let us know where you're from, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, again, thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this great forum. And I probably don't do so well at talking about myself because um, I think in many respects, there's too many things to tell to really give anybody a real flavor about yourself. I'm a young man born in Youngstown, Ohio, but my father moved to Washington, D.C. to have a little better opportunity than what he had there. Ended up living in Northeast Trinidad area. Matter of fact, I lived on Trinidad Avenue. And then he moved us out to a little town called Palmer Park, where I got a chance to hang out with Brother Sankofa and extraordinary group of people, one of which Sugar Ray Leonard and some other folks. As a matter of fact, his manager Dave Jacobs lived right across the street from my mother, or from the house where we lived. And then I went on to Morgan State University, where I majored in music and history, and then Peabody Conservatory, and then some years in opera, and just on and on and on. I'm married to a wonderful woman named Joanne, and between the two of us, we have nine beautiful children, nine grandchildren now, and again, I could go on and on and on. There's a lot more that could be told to bring it into context, but really, what I am more than anything else is a devoted husband, a devoted father, a son that honors his mother, honors his father, even though sometimes he may say that's not really the case, but I'm the oldest of his children, and I just count myself fortunate to be alive with every day an opportunity to improve and get better. I'm truly a work in progress, but every day, as the song says, every day I'm hustling. I'm trying to get a little bit better. So that's the short version, and maybe sometime we'll get a chance to talk about the journey, because the journey itself and all those things associated with the journey, I think give some insight into how we got to where we are. And for the last 30 years, additionally, I've been involved in various kind of ministry work and outreach work in this area and around the country.
All right, my brother. That sounds very, very exciting. I see you's a busy fella. The topic is, where is the love black people? What inspired you to come up with that topic for tonight?
Well, um, I believe that everything really ultimately is about love. There's a statement that says God is love, and if we come from God, then that means there's love inside of us. However, that love hasn't really been manifesting in the way that has been healthiest for us, largely throughout existence, but in particular in these times that exist today. And so, from a foundational standpoint, since everything is about love, I felt so encouraged by the love that I've received through my life, and the love that those who taught me to have for myself. When I was a young man, I was just an avid, follower of Muhammad Ali. I started watching him when his name was first Cassius Clay. So I know I'm dating myself now. And he was so dynamic uh, um, in his just manifesting the beauty and the love of himself in the world, that when the movie The Greatest was made about him, it was said that at that time he was the most known person on the planet, and in the history of mankind, one of the most known people that had ever lived. And there was something that came associated with that movie, a young man that inspired me with his great music. As a matter of fact, I told you I was a music and history major in school. I sing everything from the reggae, from R&B and all of that. But I was a vocal performance student, and I started out as an opera singer. But I love to hear this song, and I think this song is a foundation for the thought behind um, uh, this theme. And a young man named George Benson said, "I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense of pride to make it easier. When you have that sense of pride and you understand who you are and whose you are, and have a sense that that something great exists in you and you just want it to be manifested into the earth, it does make life easier, because that now you say ain't no mountain high enough, ain't no valley low enough to keep me from me, and then from me manifesting that greatness, and then my greatness connects with your greatness, and we can't do anything but great, because it makes it easier to persevere and to push through to manifest this great love that's in us. Then it goes on to say, let the children's laughter remind us how we used to be. Everybody's searching for a hero. People need someone to look up to. I never found anyone who fulfilled that need. A lonely place to be. So I learned to depend on me. He was pointing us back to ourselves. I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shadow. If I fail, if I succeed, at least I've lived as I believe. No matter what they take from me, they can't take my dignity, because the greatest love of all is happening in me. I found the greatest love inside of me. The greatest love of all is easy to achieve. Learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all. And so it repeats itself, and at the end of the songs, and if by chance that special place that you've been dreaming of leads you to a lonely place, find your strength in love. And so these words have just stayed with me through all since the time I heard them. And I believe that if more of us could tap into this, the last thing you would see is a black man killing a black man, or a man of color killing another man of color, a man of color mistreating a woman or mistreating a child or not taking care of a child. The last thing you would see is us defaming our own communities, and mistreating ourselves in all kinds of violence toward each other. The last thing you would see was us not promoting education, and we wouldn't be promoting foolishness, because that love that's inside of us would beckon us to pursue those things that produce greatness from that love. So that's the essence. And then there's one more piece, because I believe there's always a spiritual tie. I have a 13-part series entitled Echad, or Oneness with the Almighty, is to be in agreement with what God says about you, not what you say about yourself. And it's based on Deuteronomy, or in Hebrew, Devarim, chapter 6, verse 4. So, that's the basic premise. And this particular thought that I had behind it this evening, or part one of that series, is entitled Self Hatred, the oxymoronic opposite of self love. So that's kind of the foundation for, the theme. And, I'm open to hear, what anybody's thoughts are about that. I've got some other thoughts about it too, but at the same token, I believe that the opposite of that love that Benson was trying to encourage us to engender, which would keep us in oneness with our Creator, and moving in a creative force to produce those things that are good and great that love can produce. Someone taught us how to hate ourselves, and of course, this is oxymoronic. And the opposite of the self love that we need to have. So anyway, that's the premise.
Okay, nice. So you feel? Do you feel, as far as us in the community, are we getting back to that love, or I mean, what? How do you see the community as far as love in a powerful position?
Well, there's no question. I mean, if any of us think about the love that, if it doesn't matter if it was your mother or your grandmother, your aunt, your father, someone that showed you love. I'm talking about real, legitimate, genuine love. You know the positive effect that it's had on you. Imagine if we were in an environment where that was the normal modus operandi rather than the self hatred that we have engendered because of believing the lies that have been told to us almost since the beginning of time. So what's the thought behind this? Well, we kill ourselves because we've been taught to hate the image that we see in the mirror. So consequently, we can't engender or we can't begin to manifest that love until we begin to look in the mirror and like who we see, love who we see, care about who we see. That's what it's all about. And what's interesting about it is we kill ourselves because we hate ourselves. There's a spiritual saying that says, basically, how can you love God whom you've not seen, but then treat your brother like hell who's standing right next to you? You know, so if you're saying you're spiritual and you do that, then basically you're a liar. But I would say that that it's not because somebody wants to lie. It's because we've been taught lies. You ain't nothing. You ain't no good. You ain't this. You ain't that. And if I could jump really quickly, because there's something I think that's important to share right now, because you were talking about, do I feel that it's there? I don't feel that it's there in the way that it should be because we're still looking at that false image in the mirror. When many of us look at ourselves in the mirror, we see bitterness, we see resentment, we see violence that's been perpetrated on us. When we look in the mirror, we don't see the beauty of ourselves. We see strife. We see ourselves being controlled. We see ourselves associated with destruction and hatred. Well, we're full of accusation because we've been taught to just beat each other down. We're full of rejection. Many of us have been rejected by our mothers, our fathers, our sisters, our brothers, and so on. We got all kinds of insecurities and inferiority and jealousy and envy and suspicion and distrust because we've been taught to distrust. If you've been mistreated so long, you not only don't trust other people, you don't even trust your own thoughts. We're so full of withdrawal and we just want to escape. We walk around pouting and we get caught up in drugs and alcohol and all kinds of things. Then we get passive and depressed and full of despair and despondency, and we got heaviness and gloom and suicidal thoughts and worry and anxiety and all of that. This is what the enemy continues to pour out on us. And rather than us looking in an opposite direction, we just kind of get into it more and more, get nervous and full of tension and extra sensitive and always feeling persecuted and unfairness and we could go on and on and on. And this is what he has shown us, or the enemy has shown us in the mirror about us, and that's all that we see most of the time. So if I hate me and I'm killing me by what I'm saying to me, it makes it easy to kill you. So the premise of this, do I see it? No, because I don't think we've done enough to speak to the things that are important. How often are we speaking to our uniqueness, our distinctiveness, our rareness, our individuality that is just capable of doing all things? How often do we speak to our exceptionalism and our ability to just be not eccentric, but show our own independence and our own individualism in a positive way? We're not peculiar, we're rare. You know what I'm saying? We don't speak to the greatness that's in us, the vastness of our minds, the largeness of our capabilities, the bigness of our dreams and our hopes, the enormity of the power that lies within us. We don't speak to the prodigiousness of our ability to do multiple things and anything we put our mind to. We don't think about ourselves as expansive and tremendous. We think of ourselves as small. We don't look at ourselves and say we're beautiful, alluring, elegant, exquisite, ravishing, stunning, male or female. If we thought these things, if we spoke these things to ourselves, and the key is when any of these negative things come to our mind, that's a gift from God. Our job at that point is to speak the opposite, and it's up to us elders to speak to the young people and to share with them our journey and how we were captured for a long time and how we got free. When that thought comes and says you're nothing, you say, I am something. When that thought comes to you and says you're not capable, you say, oh no, not only am I capable, I'm more than capable. So we have to replace these false images of ourselves that have been in the mirror. We have to replace them with the reality that is in us. There's a measure of faith or a measure of God that's been placed in each of us. That's our essence from the beginning of time. And that's the part. It says, hold on to those things that are good. You grab on and hold on to that. And then when I begin to manifest that, I have to now share that in my own house first. So it starts with my wife and my kids and all of those things. And then I go to my neighbor and it has to spread. And if we got to do it one at a time, one can chase 1,000, two can put 10,000 to fight. Little by little, it will work. It's unequivocal. There's no question about it. Exponentially, love never fails. So back to where I started with this, our image of ourselves is causing us to kill ourselves. And we don't just physically kill ourselves. That's the end result. We kill ourselves by not managing our finances well. We kill ourselves by not taking care of our homes. You want a great home? You really want a great home? You're not living where you want to. But wherever you are, even if it's like efficiency or one-bedroom apartment, you make that thing look as beautiful as you possibly can. Because that's you right there. And when you get that one place together and do what you can with that little place, your next place is waiting for you already because you have blossomed and grown into something bigger. And this is what needs to happen. And when this becomes the foundational aspect by which we look at things, then we're not going to, it won't be so easy for us to kill each other because our own dreams have been killed, to kill each other because our own hopes are dashed. We will begin to see the hope in us. So we're reversing the oxymoronic, which is what I said, thought process of self-hatred, and we are practicing so that it becomes a part of our normal process, protocol, and procedure. We're practicing love.
Okay. You know what? To me, I'm starting to see a little bit of continuity for us as a people, even though there is still a lot of negativity and things of that nature. But once again, we always come together when times are really bad. So nothing new under the sun. Definitely that seems to be the case. But a little bit more, continuity. A lot of us are starting to get a lot more political. We're starting to get more involved with politics. If not involved with politics, we're starting to get involved with the conversation of politics as well. But the love factor is key. I believe the love factor is key to a certain extent. But you said something about manifestation, and I've been doing studies on manifestation. And the one thing I learned about manifestation is dealing with affirmations. Now, us reading affirmations, that's for the inward man. But when you speak of affirmation, especially anything pertaining to yourself, that's very powerful because that particular vibration is going out into the atmosphere. You know what I'm saying? But if you speak it, you send affirmation to yourself and you read it, that's for the inner. But and I'm learning, doing my research, when you project the words are very powerful. And by words being so powerful, I think the media and the music give us the wrong words. That's why we have to be seekers of truth. You know what I'm saying? Seekers of knowledge. And not just that, we do have to love ourselves as well. If you don't love yourself, you're not going to respect yourself. So the outward speaking of words for us dealing with manifestation is a very, very powerful thing. And it's very essential as well.
I want to read this comment. Sister Joanne Sullivan, she says, if we would just take the time to reflect on where is the love, there is life. The absence of love leads to the absence of life. True.
Amen.
That's
Amen.
true. Yeah.
See, my belief. Oh, go ahead, my brother.
No, go ahead, Charles.
Well, what I
Well,
wanted
let
to
me say
say.
this for you.
No, go ahead, Joe.
Okay, look, I really appreciate you coming on the show, brother. And that was a real good silhouette you gave about the love and the admiration and inspiration that we supposed to have for our people, the resilience that our people should have for one another. And the one thing that pointed out to me where you said it starts in the household. And it starts with the elders, mom and dad, which is the front line defense for everything else. Now, what you were saying about you raising your kids. Now, all of us, I think, all of us on here, parents. Now, we can teach our children everything we possibly can treat them, to teach them, to endow them with the things they need in order to manifest anything in life, to be able to ascertain or obtain anything in life. But is that always the guaranteed solution to everything? Because as it is, as they said, the community have to take a vital, intricate role in helping the kids along that with other families. Because my nephew has a better relationship with me than he had with his father. Then you have those that have better relationships with a counselor than they do with the parents at home. So are we to shun those ones and say, oh no, that's a problem that's at home that needs to be addressed? Or should we address them in the loving manner that you say? Because when you say love and you quoted something from the scriptures, when you said love from the book, the good book, now it does also say love covers a multitude of sin. Am I correct?
Oh, sure.
So now when it comes to that particular sacrilege, let's look at it from another standpoint, as you said, for love. How do we make that love permeate?
Okay. So coming back to my initial premise that the self-hatred that we have is oxymoronic to the self-love that we should have. So we have to understand that where we are today is not a product of something that just happened in 5 minutes. This is a product of uh, eons of what we call time now, but it's basically God giving us the space to get back to origin. When you leave your origin, you leave your foundation. So you're gonna have this disjointed scenario. So no, all fathers aren't fathering right. All mothers aren't mothering right. All aunts aren't being aunts. All uncles aren't being uncles. All brothers aren't being brothers. Many of us aren't raised by our mothers or raised by our fathers. So you've got all this piece, all this that's disjointed. And
Mhm.
what's really great about it is the people I believe that are teaching, that are sharing, are people that were disjointed, people that experience a lot of this stuff, but we have little by little learned how to come out of the darkness. So we don't have judgment. The love that covers a multitude of sins, that starts with me, for me. I'm not looking to somebody's right or to somebody's left. That's me for me. So coming back to this premise, what's happened is whatever circumstance you find yourself in, what's happened to most of us is we're not being our real selves. Something has occurred because the goal of the enemy is to get us to hate each other, to destroy each other. We don't need the enemy, or we don't need people of other origins or other um, groups, and so on. I'm trying to be, a little sensitive to the circumstance because I try not to have judgment for people just based on color or just based on country or those kind of things, because there's good people everywhere. But we understand some of the systemic problems that exist and have existed for a long, long, long time. So those things that have come to destroy the kings and queens that we, as people of the darker hue, have come to keep us from being who we are. And when you're not who you are, and you're not getting the guidance to get back to your innately spiritual self, check it. It causes us to be physically unstable, emotionally unstable, attitudinally unstable, socially unstable, relationally unstable, professionally unstable, spiritually unstable, and ultimately mentally unstable. So, what I'm saying about what you're saying is wherever you are in this compendium, if you're a person that's an elder, then we have to recognize our own. And as the people come in our path, those we are led to speak to, we can share with them not what we think, but what we know about coming out of that, identifying those things that were in us that were, unstable. What's going to happen is for those who are sent to, something in us they'll be able to identify with, and it's going to allow them to be able to say, there's hope for me. So now, yes, if it can be your father to do it, that's great. If it can be your mother to do it, that's great. But whoever it is, the person that is the catalyst, let them share like a mother, let them share like a father, let them share like a brother, let them share like a sister. And in as loving and in as encouraging way that we can, we point that person to the beauty of who they are. So if they've had a struggle, that's okay, because you can tell them, I had a struggle and I overcame it. And the same way that I did, you can. So ultimately what I'm saying is all of us have to get off of our self-righteous horses and begin to pitch in. But I'm not saying that you shouldn't help father somebody else that maybe are not your child, or help somebody outside. But one of the things that my wife has taught me, and I'm still getting my act together now, charity begins at home. So if I really want to practice, I need to practice loving my wife better. And if you're doing an okay job, but it ain't good enough, then just like Charles I got to do it better. She shows me unconditional love. I got to do that thing in return. If I practice that there in my house, it changes my house, which is me. And then when I go out the house, every other person that has their own house as in their shell, I connect with them. Just my essence, because it's changes the room that I'm in, because there's a spirit of love that's there. If I work to be a better, more encouraging father and grandfather, then by practicing with them in balance, that means sometimes I got to do things that they like, and that means sometimes I got to tell them things that they don't like, because my job is to encourage and to guide. And so by telling them the truth, you're the Michael Jordan. You don't need to be like Mike. Mike should want to be like you. When I walk into a room, I know for a fact that a Michael Jordan, a Kobe Bryant, a Luther Vandross, and I'm talking about the singing, a Luciano Pavarotti from a classical standpoint, a Bill Gates, whether or not I have the resources that he has, from a spiritual standpoint, I have those things in me, and I have the ability to impart that to someone else. So when it comes down to it, wherever we find ourselves, as we awaken, we begin to be the manifestation of that awakening. And now it starts to remove from us the physical instability, the emotional instability, the attitudinal instability. And now, so check it, we begin to, in our homes or on our jobs or as a parent or in our interaction with our siblings or interaction with friends or people that we interact with or people that come into our presence wherever we go, we begin to manifest the more balanced, loving thing about ourselves. And even if you don't say it, your physical manifestation will just begin to permeate the air. But if you get a chance to say something, you don't have to preach to somebody, but you simply just share what it is that you feel led to share in that moment that helped you transform. But more than anything else, man, it's the simplicity. I speak kind words to myself now, so it's easy to speak kind words to somebody else. I speak encouraging words to myself, so it's easy to speak encouraging words to somebody else. And that starts with the young brother that I see on the street, and I tell him that you are more than what you see about yourself. And we need to say that about our sisters. She is more than a behind. She is more than breasts. She is the person that brings life into the world. It can't come in without her. And she needs to realize how precious she is. So when we see her, we need to say queen. We need to say princess. We need to talk about her mind and how great, how capable she is. And all of a sudden, she's hearing something about her brain rather than her butt. She's hearing something about her ability to perfect her craft rather than how perfectly she swishes and sways. All of a sudden, she gets another view of herself and a desire to say, hey, right where I am. If I'm a little heavy, I'm happy to be right where I am. If I'm a little thin, I'm happy to be right where I am. I don't have to be her over there or her over there. The same way our young man doesn't have to be him over here or him over there. I am good and great, and I'm now starting to hear it from some people that are coming into my presence. But it starts with us practicing these things that I'm talking about. Many of us think we have arrived. We have not.
That's right.
So every day I'm hustling, just like the song say. You
Hey,
know, we need to begin to say, I got 99 problems, but I'm not one. I'm no longer a problem to myself because I'm doing the things. If I need to get my finances together, if I need to do some other thing, I'm now willing to learn. I'm open to learn those things that are going to allow me to love me and care for me better. And then even I don't even say anything to you, my example, you just watch me. What's the guy say? Watch me.
Appreciate you, Charles. That was
hey,
very beautiful, brother.
Bernard Expresses had a question. He said, Brother Charles, how do you
Yes.
deal with that with family members when must have to live with them? That's breaking our daily commute. Is it breaking our daily communication?
Can you repeat that one more time, my brother? It was breaking up just a little bit on my end.
Okay, this from Bernard Express. He said, Brother Charles, how do you deal with that? How do you deal that with family members when must have to live with them? That's breaking our daily communication. That's the question he asked.
Well, so I don't know what everybody's living situation is. So I'm going to say it in a general kind of way because there's literally, guys, there's 10,000 facets of this that could be discussed.
Right. Certainly
But
are.
let's say it from this standpoint. If you are in a living situation that it's not your own and you can't necessarily dictate what goes on in that place, then you have a choice to make. Is this the place that I need to be to grow? Or do I need to transition and live someplace else? And I have to then weigh the cost. Sometimes we want to stay someplace because it's more it's cheaper for us, and it's economically easier. But it would be better to live someplace and struggle and have to work harder, maybe have to work more jobs or do something to have the space that now has the you want. So there's an assessment that needs to take place. If you are a father or a husband and it's your cooperative place, then we have to sit down and figure out how are we, the husband and wife, going to function in our space and figure out a way that we can cohabitate in love and in peace, or at least not in disagreement, going in different directions. You really have to assess the circumstance. If you're living in a situation with siblings or cousins or so on, if you all can sit down and create a path that is mutually beneficial, then that's what you do. But if you can't, then you've got to possibly transition. Another part that we're not considering, in any cooperative living situation, you may need a third party, a counselor, a mediator of some sort to just listen with an objective ear. One of the things that my wife constantly shares with me is sometimes we're too close and so we're not objective. So to welcome some wise counsel and some wise insight from someone that can help you look at a situation and adjudicate it reasonably and fairly. This is how you're able to do it. How can two walk together lest they be agreed? So that's what's critical. So it's important for us to assess the situation, understand the parameters that guide that situation to see if it's one we need to stay in, one we need to transition from. And I'm not talking about husbands and wives, because husbands and wives got more work to do to try to make things work than to let them go. So I'm talking about just in general, that you have to assess and then make decisions on how you can create the most synergistic atmosphere for everybody living in a dwelling so that there are heads coming together in unity rather than butting heads. Because in that place, nobody wins. I could get more specific. I would need to know somebody's specific situation to be able to share or point them in a direction of what might help them. Because again, 10,000 people will have 10,000 things the same and 49,000 things that are different. So consequently, you have to be able to assess each situation because each situation requires what it requires.
Well, Bernard expressed, he said, yes, he agree with that, brother. So I guess you answered the question.
Blessings to you, my brother, Bernard.
Oh,
It's an honor that you would even ask the question of me.
yeah.
Yep.
May I interject?
Absolutely, Dr. Sankofa.
Um, one of the things that you spoke on, brother, was one of the key things to me was about the situation in the Black community, that it just didn't start primarily within the last couple of generations. So, and I think that, you know, from a counselor's point of view, that we have to, you know, I like to get to the root of any situation opposed to the end result. And I think that, you know, we have to take a thorough detoxification of our indoctrination.
Amen.
That we have
I'm in agreement.
internalized, and we are actually in our behavior reflects the the indoctrination. And so when you're dealing with a people who have been stripped of everything, and you know, just like being stripped naked, and then you're looking around to, you know, to find some clothing to put on to cover yourself. So you're liable to put on anything. You're liable to wear any outfit. And so, metaphorically speaking, that's been the situation for our people. We've been stripped, and we've been told that we were less than, like you was speaking on earlier. And so, you know, rebounding from that, and then when they, you know, our people don't see strong positive influences, they don't see role models, they don't see true leadership in our communities. And then when they do rise in the community, we watch them, and sometimes, and most times, we assist in their demise. And so that takes away a lot of the hope and faith, you know, in our people, you know, having this cohesiveness in our communities. And then so, once again, when we're talking about being indoctrinated and being under a particular hypnosis and spell work that consists of self-hatred, you know, the hatred of our own reflections, which you spoke on, you know, you broke that down very, very eloquently. The you know, the self-hatred, the lack of affirmations, the lack of self-affirmations, what's been indoctrinated to us, what we've been trained in the media, television, movies, and of how we're supposed to conduct ourselves, that we're less than. So it takes, you know, a great deal of repairing the spiritual and emotional and mental damage that we see manifested in today's society within the Black community, specifically the Black community, and always being targeted for termination, always the last hired, the first fired, always the first to be annihilated by law enforcement, always denied benefits. And it's been a process, even with this, when they had the law in the 60s called man out of the house law, where the men had to actually leave and they were deprived of employment. And in order for the woman and children to be fed or receive assistance, the man had to leave the house. You know, these were pivotal roles that played in the manifestation of the community being in so much disarray today, economically, morally, mentally, physically, and you have all these things that take place in our communities. And so some of us have been blessed and fortunate enough to have had people come into our journeys as we are in this journey that have helped us and assisted us and have been examples and, like you said, like wise counsel to remove us from that mental, spiritual, and emotional muck and mire and gave us a glimpse of our greatness. Unfortunately, the masses of our people in the communities have not have had that type of blessing and opportunity. So you're going to have this type of mass hysteria, and emotional and spiritual turmoil because of the things that have been placed on us. But the good part and the blessing of this whole piece is no matter how much we talk about how the conditions of our communities are, that we being the original people and being so resilient, we have the ability to rise above these situations and conditions. But we must rid ourselves, and I always say this, of this individualism. Individualism will be the contributing factor to our demise as a people. And because we've been told not to share, not to break bread, every man for himself, even in rap music. Everybody got their cups and they ain't chipped in. I got to get this bag. And we're the only people that yell this type of insanity, and then we glorify that. We glorify our insanity. We enamor ourselves in our mental discomfort and our spiritual paralyzation, and it must take a major approach into our restoration, because everything has to be restored first and foremost spiritually. And once that spiritual restoration has reached at least have been to a point stabilized where our people can begin to just get a glimpse of who they really are with the assistance of those that have risen above these situations, then the healing process begins, because we search for so much healing externally without looking internally. This is why you have, and this is why people like Diddy and all these people that are multi-billionaires are in the trouble that they're in, because of the spiritual paralyzation. The energy and seed of pervertiveness, the greed, the individualism, which has sabotaged a lot of lives. And this is how they have this thing called society. I call it sick society. They have it set up for that. We have to learn, and those who are in position, those who have been chosen, those who have been selected, and those who have been given assignments by the Most High, to bring and restore peace, justice, wisdom, enlightenment, love, embracement on all levels. Because everybody on this show tonight has been given a divine assignment. Whether we are fulfilling it to the best of our abilities, like you said, Charles, we're at the work in progress. We're striving to be better versions of ourselves so we can be of assistance and, be strong pillars in our community, man. Because when I was giving out these clothes yesterday, I had, and it's just an example, I had about 9 pairs of Jordans. And I never wore a pair of Jordans, never bought one, never bought them or anything. But I know how people have murdered people over them in recent years. And so it was a young guy. He had to be in his early 20s, maybe 22. And it appears that he hadn't bathed in quite some time. And he hadn't had a haircut maybe close to 7 or 8 months. And he could barely walk, but he had no shoes on. No shoes. He just had socks on. He could barely walk because he was dope sick for some fentanyl. And You know, and I had one of the soldiers, shout out to Brother Christopher DeWitt, who stayed on the phone because I did this solo. And, you know, once he got those shoes, it created a spark that somebody actually really cares about him. You know, and you know, the way that they cherish some of the stuff that we look at as trash and leftovers, uh, you know, it really reflects on who we are as a people. You know, how we throw food away. And I've watched working at the Potleys and watch people actually stick their hands in trash cans and stuff like that looking for food. But I say all that to say that, you know, the indoctrination, how we've been worked over, manipulated, and to a high level turned out under this westernized thinking and this tyrannistic energy that is ravishing our communities that has us in a position of self-hatred is really, really manifesting itself now because these things were put in place long before we came to the planet. And, you know, I appreciate all the things that you said, all of the strong points, you know, it made a lot of sense, you know, and for those who are watching, it should give them some hope. It should give them some time to just reflect on actually, and give themselves a gratitude check in terms of who they really are and look at who they are and what they do have. When you, especially when you spoke on the, whether you live in a one bedroom or an efficiency, how you can, you know, turn that into your own personal palace of peace. You know, that spoke in volumes, you know. So you know, it was an honor to have you on, brother. You know, I've been knowing you since I've been 8 years old, man. And basically, you always been the same. You always took on challenges and, you know, win, lose, or draw, you always, you know, you always showed up, you know. So, you know, and that's the thing that I deal with. I like to get to the root of the problem, and besides condemning the end results. You know, our drug addicts, people that are struggling with drugs and substance abuse, you know, most of the times, if you look and talk to them 20 years ago, they were very, very prominent people. A lot of them had government jobs. They were, you know, very prosperous people. But something internally took place and some type of unaddressed trauma or issue took place. And maybe losing the job was the final straw. And they had to seek pharmaceutical assistance to as a coping mechanism. And then, you know, once that sits in, then they begin to be comfortable with living in a low vibratory frequency and, you know, all that comes with that, you know, and not just drugs, it's food, you know, it's lying, it's gambling, it's cheating, you know, it's, you know, creating drama, oversexing, all of these things, gambling, all of these things are components to and ingredients to things that lead to these internal battles that we have on a daily and consistent basis. But once again, we are resilient people. You know, we always smile when we're hurting, which is it's a blessing and a curse with that at the same time. But you know, in closing for me, man, you know, I appreciate you coming on, man. You really dropped some jewels, some gems, man, and gave some people some things to think about. And once again, we appreciate you, brother.
Thank you so much, my brother. If I could say one more thing, and then I
Go
will,
ahead, my
you
brother.
know, get out of your way. So in response to what you just said, Shaka, and you know, to just maybe make it a little culminative in terms of what, you know, I had the good fortune and the blessing to be able to discuss this evening. The enemy has always been about divide and conquer.
Thank you.
When we think about Adam and Eve, we're only talking about Adam and Eve are a metaphor for divide and conquer. The two just couldn't stay agreed. How can two walk together lest they be agreed? That's why we have a right hemisphere and a left hemisphere of our minds. We can't walk, and then there's a part that's right down the middle. We can't walk that straight and narrow path because our right side of our brain is arguing with our left side of the brain rather than figuring out how can we be unified in our movement to go forward. So divide and conquer is what it's always been about. Cain and Abel are nothing but a metaphor for us being able to be divided amongst each other. Abel shows this wonderful, presence to do this good, and Cain just gets told, hey man, maybe you could do a little better. Instead of him doing what he could to be better, he wants to destroy his brother, but he's destroying his brother because the enemy's goal was to plant in his head that there was a separation rather than an opportunity to come more into oneness with himself and his creator and manifest the greatness of himself. So here's the deal. From the beginning of what we now know as time, negative forces, aware of our extraordinary power, because every one of us got it. Every one of us got it. So, and I'm not putting it down. Sometimes we talk about those that are on drugs, and sometimes we talk about those that are addicted to alcohol, and then we talk about those that are addicted to sex. But it's a whole lot of people that are addicted to all kinds of things, and it's just as bad as those things. Some people can't get off the internet. Some people can't live unless they hear something by Kendrick Lamar. Even that song that he did, dun, 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 people don't even know that's Ray Charles, 1961. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nothing new under the sun. That's where that beat came from. Dun, 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 dun. So what I'm trying to say, these negative forces have wanted us to lose our sense of our supernatural creative force and our power, and has determined to destroy us and cause us to keep the divine nature that we have, the divine power that we have, the divine spark that's within us, to keep it hidden. But the goal isn't to keep it hidden from the world. Everybody can see you got talent. Everybody can see you have capabilities. He's trying, or the goal of the enemy is to cause you not to see it. So what has to happen is this, and we talk about what the systemic thing. What Malcolm said a long time ago. You've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, run amok. I mean, and on and on and on. But finally, we got to stop right where you are. You got to say, guess what? Wherever I am, I need to assess where I am. And once I assess where I am, I got to make a decision. Do I want to be prideful, or do I want to let the creative force that's in me help me get out of the mess that I got myself in? If I'm on drugs, I need to go someplace and try to get some help. If I got some alcohol problems, I need to try to go someplace and get some help. If I got a gambling problem, I got to go get some help. If I got a relational problem, I got to ask for help. Ask and it shall be given. Seek and you shall find. Knock and the door shall be open. We got to take a step. And if we take one step, God's going to take two. And if we take two steps, God's going to take four. And I'm telling you, each of us got to stop right where we are and assess where we are. And then right there, you can't talk about trying to be big in this. You got to start with the little piece that you got right there. And guess what? When I start with the little piece, I'm not looking for the answer from Jay-Z. I'm not looking for the answer from Beyonce. I'm not looking for the answer from Saquon Barkley, because 1 second we was happy with him, then he Trumpicized himself, and it was gone in an instant. Why? Because we're all more concerned about being famous than about being faithful to the cause of bettering all of us. So you got to make that assessment, and then you got to little by little say whatever I need to do to change it. If I got to cry for help, it's one piece at a time, line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little, one step at a time. Wherever I am, I assess, see the good, and I laud the good. And all the stuff that's not good, I got to call it not good. And I got to be honest with myself, and then I got to be willing to do the one thing. For those who are, we got to take it by force. I got to fight. Public Enemy was right. Fight the powers that be, but it's the negative that's in you. When you begin to fight the power in you that's been trying to hold you down, all of a sudden everything changes. We don't see a challenge. We see the ability to be able to overcome and to be more creative. We don't see a problem. We see something that's just easily fixed if I give it a little attention. Is anybody hearing me? So we've had our time of excuses. We just got to start where we, and guess what? Let's not judge each other for where we are. Let's encourage each other and help each other to, yeah, hey, this is where I am. This is what I got to do. We started from the bottom, but now we're here. We don't have to stay there.
All right.
And so when we recognize that this self-hatred, which is oxymoronic, when we recognize it and we pursue the self-love, we're only going to pursue the things that are good and just and right and truthful. Those are the things that we're going to passionately pursue. And that's why, you know, it's all about love. The greatest love is inside of each of us. That's what it's all about.
All right, Brother Jerry, you got any final remarks before we end the show?
Yeah, Brother Charles, we appreciate you, brother. Good. If I want to say, good sermon.
Oh, well, I was just talking. I just talked demonstratively. That's all.
Yeah, it was very eloquently put, man. We couldn't ask for anything better. I appreciate you. I really appreciate the fact that you showed that synergy with you, that you can pass on to other people, give them hope. They don't have to feel that it's not the end all. When you're faced with complicated, perplexing problems, you still have that energy in you to strive to accomplish what you need. The most important thing that I want to say that you said that's vital to all of us. Remember, and I say this all the time, each and every one of us, Shaka put it perfectly, each and every one of us has a significant role in the development of our communities. If we don't take that active role, we can watch ourselves, particularly in the future, with our own demise. And I'll leave it at that.
All right, Brother Ken.
Brother
Akil.
For everyone who tuned in, hey man, appreciate you, brother. Appreciate your energy, your words of wisdom. I like it. If you ever want to come back, come on back. And to everyone out there, appreciate y'all that tuned in to the show. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, help us get out here, you know, because we give nothing but positive information for our people like this. No performance, no BS. And also, you know, you can follow Vocal Dialect on IG, on TikTok, Facebook as well. Also, follow the brother T Shaka, the General T Shaka Sankofa. He's on Facebook. That's T Shaka Sankofa. He come on in the evening times between 8 and 8:30 p.m. He's going to be on Friday at 8:30 p.m. So check him out. Follow the General T Shaka Sankofa. Raw and real and uncut. Peace.
All right, family. We appreciate y'all. I'm Knowledge Born 7. Brother Gerald Moore, Brother T Shaka Sankofa, my brother, Kenwodo Akil, and our special guest, Brother Charles.